My first real security role was in RSA security, even had security in the name. And then I used to have hair, no children, no social life as well. But that was my first real security role. Security has definitely been of interest, as you can imagine, particularly with the rise of AI. That's obviously getting a lot of people interested and concerned. So I think that's helped to a certain extent in terms of refocusing people back to security and making sure it's an important part, because whilst AI, and looking into this year, by the way, I think AI is absolutely crucial, but for both sides, it's a blessing and a curse.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thanks very much for joining the Channel Zone. I'm Mark Edwards, and my guest here this year, as we've just moved into 2025, I have Mr. Jon Kane. Jon, good day. How are you?
I'm grand. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you for having me on, and Happy New Year to everyone.
Super. Thanks for joining us. Jon and I wouldn't say we've got a long history, although it is. We did meet originally, Jon. I don't know if you remember. It was 10 years ago. In 2014 in Paris, of all places. It wasn't a romantic meeting, although
You're making it sound like people will talk, Mark, but it does sound much more romantic than it really was. But you're right.
Absolutely. And if you remember, we had a quick little tour of other European capitals. Warsaw, I think we might have gone, I think, somewhere in Holland, somewhere in Belgium, if I remember rightly. But back then, I was doing a project with FireEye, and I think you had just started
it was my very first day, yeah, correct. It was my very first day.
So I looked on LinkedIn this morning just to have a look at your kind of work history in many respects, the company. So would I be right in saying that you've kind of, your entire career, I think, has been in the security space?
Yep.
Can you just give the listeners a little bit of a potted history of where you started off and how you've come to be where you are today at Gigamon?
I think it's fair to say security, and if it's not pure security, it certainly had a security play. And I've always been extremely interested in security, also I wouldn't still be doing it. So my first real security role was in RSA security, even had security in the name. And then I used to have hair, no children, no social life as well. But that was my first real security role. And that would have been late 90s, maybe early thousands.
Yes.
And I had a great time there for a long, long time. And then I moved over to VMware. So that would actually be, and actually at the time it was owned by EMC. So it's actually an internal transfer, and worked for VMware for 3.5, 4 years. And that was crazy. But again, a massive security play, as you can imagine, working on the VM side. And then I worked for a short while at Trend and then McAfee. So two obviously very big security names. And then after that was FireEye, which again, that's where we first met. And that's, again, obviously a big security play, obviously on the Mandiant side and on the Trellix side. And then after FireEye, I went to Carbon Black.
That's right.
EDR. And again, I've been very, very lucky in my career. I've worked some really interesting places with people over the years, and it's amazing how many are through people that you know, and that's typically from a channel point of view, very, very incestuous in a good way, I believe. So,
and is it so that the sector, as I said, definitely security? Has it always been channels and alliances? Is that right?
Always
from the very beginning.
Right at the very beginning. So, in fact, I got into it purely because I used to work for an outsourcing company, which at the time was very, very different, very unique. We used to represent American companies that didn't want to invest in kind of headcounts and office space and with people. So I would, 1 or 2 days a week, work on representing as a US company. So I would act as those, and I'd walk into Ingram Micro or into Insight or Action, as it was in the day, with a different business card on a Monday and on a Tuesday and on a Wednesday. And that's how I got involved in channels. So actually that made me realize that it was so important, so influential. And it was great because they'd ask me, well, who are you working for today? And that made me then want to be purely channel. And that's when I went straight into RSA. But my first role at RSA was pure distribution. So I was responsible as a disty head, and we had a number of disties at the time. So that was
because RSA at that point, security as well. There was a physical element to it as well, wasn't it?
The key fobs were huge, and most people recognise the key fobs, not the name necessarily, but they'd recognise the key fobs. So we were the key fob people. But that was a great time. I mean, there was money around. people were spending, and security was just starting to really kick off. So
Yeah.
it was a brilliant time to be working in security.
Yeah, and I think actually, if I was probably to look at the people that I know within the security arena, lots of them did work at RSA at some point in the dim and distant past. Does
Yep.
it still exist today? I don't,
Yep.
as the name, right? Okay, but
Yep. So there's an RSA, but there's lots of other companies within that. So, for example, even here we have NetWitness is a product that you would recognise, and that's part
right,
of the RSA chain. So even then, it still exists to this day. In fact, I sent a LinkedIn to congratulate one of our ex-colleagues, my ex-colleague. She's still at RSA after 26 years. It's a
wow.
great company and still going strong.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So, as I said, we've just turned from 2024 into 2025. Last year, again, from what I'm reading in the kind of tech press, the media out there, it was a challenging year for some companies. I mean, a record year for probably as many companies out there. But give us a kind of your take on the current state of play, let's say, where we are now in terms of from vendors, disties, and partners or resellers. How was last year, and how does it look going forwards? Opportunities and challenges.
So, I mean, there's absolutely no doubt it was a challenging year. It doesn't mean to say
Right.
that it wasn't a successful year. And in terms of a number of sales, I think it's partly depending on the industry that you're in. I was actually at a Canalis event last year, and it was really interesting to see some of the stats referring, and this is purely channel, as you can imagine,
Yeah.
about some of the successes, but obviously some of the areas that weren't as successful. But I would certainly say security was one of those that's always and ever present. But one thing I would definitely say is that there was a lot more competition for business and for dollars within channel partners. So it meant that a lot of partners were fighting for similar business, whereas ordinarily you wouldn't have to go through the same hoops to try and jump through to try and close an opportunity. I would
Right.
certainly say it was challenging from that point of view. You were also having to go through a lot more sign-off to sign off budget. That was a lot stricter, and the sales cycle actually increased by quite a bit. I'm talking specifically here, but also speaking to colleagues as well. But security has definitely been of interest, as you can imagine, particularly with the rise of AI. That's obviously getting a lot of people
Yeah.
interested and concerned. So I think that's helped to a certain extent in terms of refocusing people back to security and making sure it's an important part. Because whilst AI, and looking into this year, by the way, I think AI is absolutely crucial. But for both sides, it's a blessing and a curse. I think it can certainly help end users, and partners can obviously help with that. But it's also exactly what anybody that's trying to get access to somebody else's system can use AI to try and benefit themselves. So
Yeah.
it's a quite an odd area in terms of making sure people are asking the question of AI. But it's just one example to say you should be making sure that it's fully secure, and AI is a way of somebody getting in, as opposed to
Yes.
trying to help you as alone. So it's been
Yeah.
a challenging year, but for this year, I do see it as a massive benefit for a lot of reasons. Again, particularly the market that we're in, but just security as a whole. It is going to be, again, challenging, certainly in terms of cost, but the ever present is the fact that security just doesn't disappear. It's
That's right.
always going to be there from board level down, and there's always going to be concern for people to make sure that they're going to be fully secure no matter what they're going to be doing. So it's still going to be a successful year for a lot of companies, but that's where people are looking to consolidate. That's partner alike as well as end user. So I think this year is going to be one of those where a lot of partners will be looking to consolidate their own portfolio and
Yeah.
get less bang for buck. So I think that's going to be one of the biggest changes going into 2025.
And you say the consolidation of the portfolio, because the customer will be looking for consolidation because they
Absolutely.
don't necessarily want to have 100 different
Of course.
security vendors to try and integrate. But also, as you said, the partners themselves will want to consolidate their offerings.
Yep.
And I think we could take it another step further because with all of the mergers and acquisitions that have been taking place,
Yep.
there's even more consolidation even at that end. So it's say there do seem to be a lot of the resellers. I think there's a kind of roll up strategy taking place as we speak at this moment in time, and I think that's probably led, as said, to many as said of the sales issues and sales challenges. Gigamon itself, as I say, perhaps we could just touch upon that in terms of, because again, I don't know what the name recognition would be in the marketplace in general for Gigamon. Can you just give our listeners and viewers just a bit of an outline as to Gigamon's specific area of focus? Where does Gigamon deliver value in that security arena?
So most people would recognize the Gigamon name, and it actually came from when I was asked if I wanted to join Gigamon. And I said, look, I'm really interested in security, not really networking, because most people would recognize Gigamon from the networking side of the business. But I would certainly say the vast majority of business that we do and have done for the last, I've been here 2.5 years, give or take, has been security, without a shadow of a doubt. Realistically, what we are doing is monitoring absolutely every piece of network traffic. So anything that comes in via a network, and when networks obviously have changed considerably, we are spring chickens, and that's the way we look, Mark. But clearly, the notion of security and networking has changed so much over the last 20 odd years. But actually, the network has now expanded so big in the sense that now we're looking at every single piece of data, every single piece of traffic, every single interaction, no matter whether it's a device, whether it's directly within a network, within a VPN firewall, etc. We're monitoring all of that information. By doing that, we're able to then feed into all of the security tools, because without seeing everything, how can you possibly make a judgment or a decision on what's good or what's bad? So there's your first part. The second thing is sheer volume of that data and that traffic is huge, as you can imagine, on a daily basis. And what we then do is take all of that data and reduce it down as much as we can. So we look at deduping a lot of that information. If somebody's carrying out the same interaction and same integration into a system or into an application, we can reduce that down to one instance. So it means that those security tools are not being completely overwhelmed, and more importantly, who's responsible for those security tools can make a quicker and by far more judgmental decision based on context. That's what Gigamon do. So that's why, from a networking point of view, we're recognized. In security, we're getting more and more recognized because we're basically making those tools much more efficient. So that's why our alliance play, back to my title, channel and alliances, working with ecosystem vendors is really important, because we help their products and make them that much more efficient.
Super. So you say ecosystem vendors, like the likes of?
So Vectra, Extra Hop, we work with, we mentioned some of the my previous employees, so like FireEye with Trellix, for example, Mandiant. We have over 200 different integrations that we have with different technology vendors out there. We can't possibly list every single one. There are stacks of those, whether they're going to be infrastructure, whether they're security, whether they're going to be, for example, in cloud, working with AWS, Azure, etc. So there are stacks of vendors out there that can take and use our products to not only feed data into Gigamon, but we then take that data and feed out to those other products as well. So the consolidation message that you talked about earlier is really important for us, because actually you're getting better utilization out of the existing products that you've got, rather than looking at ripping everything out and bringing a whole new tool set in.
So maybe not only improving the security posture for the client, but also, how about saving money as well? Is there any? Does that take place? I think it's going to be increasingly important in 2025.
Without a doubt. And I think that's the point, is that in terms of overall cost and ROI, that's where our product comes into play. And I think from our point, we are looking to go into a customer and say, by the way, you're trying to consolidate and you're trying to reduce costs, you need to buy another product. So it's not a great start. But what you are doing is ensuring that you're getting better utilization out of the products that you've got. And we typically find within a 6-month to 9-month period, Gigamon is paying for itself because of that reduced traffic, like I mentioned before. It also means you're going to get far more security posture, or at least visibility of all of security posture, to feed into your existing tools. So you also want to make sure that rather than just renewing existing products, are you getting the best bang for buck out of those products that you've already got? Don't start a new project. Don't look at something new without making sure that your security posture is safe and ready to go first of all. So a cost, and we do an ROI calculator we give out to all of our partners, all of our customers, free of charge, that enables them to at least see how they can get better utilization, not just our product, but all the other products they have on their portfolio as well. So without a doubt, it's really important.
No, super. I think that's going to be a big driver going forwards. Again, I think one of the issues maybe with 2024, we had 2 big elections in the UK and in the US. And again, in the US, I don't know if you've seen the the new administration comes in about 10 days' time,
Yeah.
and Elon Musk is going to be heading the Department of Government Efficiency. So that's one of the areas, and they have already been identifying IT spend as one of the areas potentially where government has been overspending in the past. So I think there's going to be a spotlight on expenditure. And I think that message, that's going to signal to the wider community that IT expenditure perhaps needs to be tweaked somewhat. So if you have a proposition, as from what you say Gigamon do, where you can actually improve the quality of service, perhaps increase other areas of performance, but at the same time, if you can show them a cost saving, I think that's going to be a big asset. And I'm assuming then your partners will be taking that forward. So your channel and alliances for EMEA. Does Gigamon have any? I don't know. Do you have a unique approach or a unique perspective on partnerships? How specifically do Gigamon go about serving or supporting your EMEA partners? Can you give us a bit of an insight into that?
Well, I mean, there's many companies I've worked at in the past that have always been channel friendly, and I've never been able to define exactly what channel friendly is.
I was going to say, I don't think I've heard channel first, but channel friendly sounds right. Okay,
I think there's a distinction between channel friendly. We like working with channel as opposed to channel first, but also
Right.
channel first might appear to be channel first being we go to channel first, then we look at another alternative. That's certainly not the case here. We are only channel. So it's the first company I've ever been at where 100% is via our channel partner. So that is straight away a really important part to be able to go into a partner and say, this is not going to go direct. This is purely through channel. That makes my life a damn sight easier that I know that is the only route to market. The one thing I'd say is that's been very interesting here at Gigamon is that we've been around. We celebrated our 20th year last year. So being around that long, and you mentioned before about acquisitions and a lot of changes within companies, we've been Gigamon now for 20 years. Now coming into our 21st year. So we've been doing this for a hell of a long time. So our partner program does exactly what it says on the tin. It's neat, tidy, and actually there is no confusion necessarily as far as I'm concerned. That makes life a lot easier. But it also means that we've been able to at least create a partner program that is beneficial when it comes to cost. So, for example, we give very, very good incentives to our partners to find business for us. So, for example, if they're registering an opportunity that's brand new to us, they're able to receive money that they can use for MDF or they can use in their own pocket for individuals. So we make it very lucrative for them to find new opportunities for us. Case studies, for example. So we make that quite a way of at least introducing us to new end users, and that's made a huge amount of difference for new logo and new opportunities found within channel. So I think that's one of the benefits that we've got. But I actually think the way that we work is absolutely crucial to our partners, and more importantly, is a benefit to the partners. And this might sound strange coming from a vendor, but we are not the first name that appears on a PO. You're also buying other products that go in with that as well. Our product is on the back of every single one of those products to allow us to pass data from and to different products as well. So therefore, it's a great channel play because they're going in there saying, right, I know you're working with these products with security, from a networking point of view, with these devices. If you plonk Gigamon in the middle of that, it's going to benefit your EDR solution, your NDR solution, your SIM, your SOAR, any of those security products. Gigamon underpins a lot of that. So you're making those products more efficient. So that's why going in is kind of Gigamon's going to solve all your problems, not the way to work. Going via our channel, this is where they automatically know what products they've got, what products they're looking to try and implement, and if Gigamon fits in the middle of those and makes them that damn sight more efficient, which is a great channel play.
Yeah, so you're part of a solution, an overall solution, and you need the partner basically to put that together.
Correct. We can't do that on our own. We can turn around and it's almost like turning around to an end user and saying, do you know what's going to fix your problem? It's Gigamon. And then just by Gigamon is not going to fix and solve every single problem, right?
Right.
They've already got existing products. That's why it makes it a pure channel play. So a pure solution play, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt.
No, so now, as you know, as I said, when we met in Paris those years ago, that was part of a whiteboard program that we were doing for FireEye at the time. And 2020 was a strange year for me. You can imagine, as somebody who kind of specialised in whiteboard presentations, most office whiteboards come March 2020 had kind of yellow and black hazard tape around it. Nobody was allowed in the office, and I have noticed, a huge difference really in the business world. Here we are now in 2025 as compared to 2019 or going into 2020. Lockdown had a dramatic effect, certainly on my business, and has changed it significantly. From your perspective, how did lockdown change things for you, and has that continued now? Have we come out of lockdown, and the way that you and your partners work has also continued to in a different manner?
It's very difficult to say that we're back to where we were before 2020, but I think we're almost there. I think it's fairly safe to say. Back to similar with you, with your business, same with ours, is if you're not seen front and center, you're not spending time with the partners on a disty sales floor or mixing with the partners to either go and see an end user or being with a partner on site, then actually that makes a huge amount of difference. We try to do as much as we possibly can face to face. We're starting to get back to that as much as we can. But what it does mean is if we are spending time going to meet with a partner, it's a damn sight more efficient than it was before. You weren't just popping in for a cup of coffee, right? You weren't just making sure you're traveling over to Harry, as you mentioned before, and seeing one customer or one partner. You're making those trips more and more efficient. And actually, I think that has started to change. And actually, I think we're not far off where we were before. If I look at also our sales teams, and I'm sitting here in our Gigamon office, which we opened last year, which we encourage all our partners to use, by the way, and certainly within the week, Tuesday to Thursday, we get a lot of partners using the office and spending a lot of time here because it's used as a hub. It's a nice central hub. It's in the centre of London. That's becoming more and more popular. Again, they get to meet with us. They also meet customers here as well. They're using it as a base to go off and see customers. So actually, it's changed a wee bit. That I would never have considered that back in 2019. But now we're getting partners using this as a base, which is quite nice. And actually, it's double whammy for us, really. We're getting to meet them and spend time with them as well. So I think that's changed. But I think it has put pressure on the fact that we should be making better use of the time that we've got when we're going to go and see a partner. Don't just go for the sake of going to see a partner, right? What are you going to get out of it? Why should you do it? And make it a little bit more quality than quantity, really.
Yeah. You mentioned Tuesday to Thursdays, so that's a major change, isn't it? Don't you think? Well, you're in London on a Friday, but my guess is the office is less used on a Friday and on a Monday. So I think there are significant changes that have taken place. I liken it a little bit to. It's like you've gone on holidays, let's say for an extended period, you've come back and you come home and it's just like things aren't where they used to be. Things have been moved around and changed. I'm intrigued by what you said there about, the partner sales person in the past would often have been seen, as you said, walking the floor of the partners or the resellers' offices. But now, strangely, you said it's the other way around. They're coming to you, which is you're still meeting face to face, but in a different location. And perhaps this works better. I don't know.
I think there's one bit that I've always said. We call it channel, but we're working with partners, right? So, and again, you look at the definition of partnering, right? So realistically, it should be a two-way process, right? So it should be not us going to the partner every single time. If there's some benefit they can have by being here on site, whether they're going to be mixing with our technical team, commercial team, marketing, either way, we want them to try and use this as a base and feel as though this is a satellite office for them, for example. And if they want to use any of our meeting rooms to have meetings, so sales meetings take place here quite a bit, I'm happy with that because actually that helps the partnering element. Like I say, the definition of true partnering is use this as one of your offices. You don't need to be in your own office. One of the other things is, particularly when you go into the office, is it a case that you get more done working from home or working in the office? Well, certainly here, there are more interruptions. You're seeing more of the people. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's a good thing in a way. But actually, for a partner to come here means they can get more done because they can be left alone. They can use the meeting rooms. They're not in their office where they might get people contacting them. It's actually quite nice for them to be able to have a double office. And we had a disty in last week who basically came in here to make sure he could get some work done, meet with us. And then he went back to his office afterwards to do exactly that.
And of course, and you've just got Liverpool Street Station behind you there. So actually, what you're offering your partners there is, say, a hot desking space, effectively in the heart of the city of London, which maybe to many of your resellers, of your partners, might be a major advantage. So, not super. So I say that has changed. The other issue that I'm kind of grappling with at the moment, I'm getting incredible use out of. Well, I'm a ChatGPT user. I don't know whether you would be using ChatGPT or one of the other kind of AI assistant tools, but I'm again interested. You mentioned clearly AI is going to have a huge impact in the marketplace in general. It must be a worry with regards to the kind of cyber criminals that are out there. Giving them access to AI tools is an issue. But how specifically are you using AI? And I don't mean Gigamon. You personally, are you using any AI tools yourself?
No, nothing like as much. In fact, I go as far to say it was my brother who would admit himself he's not the most IT literate person. He tries his
Right,
best, bless him. He's the one that told me about ChatGPT because it never really came up as an option or something to use.
right.
But I suppose I'm a little bit old school, and I still like to try and do everything myself. It's the same thing as asking somebody to do a presentation, put a deck together for me.
Yeah,
I'd rather put it together because I know the content that's going to be in there, right? So perhaps a little bit old-fashioned when it comes to something like ChatGPT, but I'd certainly think that there is, when we're looking at security, it's like I mentioned before, it's a blessing and a curse, right? I can see the benefits of using it. I can also see where that could be used for certain activity with threat actors could use against it.
yes,
Something like
yeah,
ChatGPT, very, very quick, especially if you're running out of the time. We're talking about something that's way beyond that. The same tools being used by those threat actors to try and
right,
attack people is quite scary. Now,
yeah,
quite scary is one sense, but actually there are, again, ways and means and tools, not just Gigamon, but plenty of other vendors as well, that AI is right first and foremost, right at the very, very center of what they're trying to make sure that people understand, that they have a policy around that. The best thing is, again, that's where partners do it, with a pure solution that's going to be put around that. Again, not just with one of our products, for example, but also with other vendors as well. It is definitely prevalent, like I mentioned at the event back in Canalis last year. That was the
yes,
number one topic. And we do a survey every year, and we had, I think it was over 80% of all of our respondents that came back, and all of them said that they believe that AI will increase ransomware without a shadow of a doubt. And I think best part of half of them had seen an attack that had been using AI, they believed. So again, I mean, that's from our own customers.
yes.
So let's think about people that aren't using Gigamon or using other security products. So it's definitely there without a doubt. And it's scary, but at the same token, that's why it's more important to work with a channel partner, because they're going to be able to give you advice on what they've already used, what they've sold,
Yeah.
and how they've tried to fix it for other end users as well.
Well, I think I can predict in a year's time you will be using more ChatGPT than your brother is
I need
probably
to
going to
give me
be.
a lesson. Exactly that.
Yeah. Well, so I have found it absolutely amazing in its ability to, you can give it a rough sketch of a proposition or a proposal to put together, and it will craft. Well, whatever you want. If you ask for a kind of one paragraph summary, or if you ask for a 1 page summary, the work that it does is extraordinary, and
Oh, I
and
don't
I
disagree.
think it's just going to make the job of the salesperson. It's going to make it an awful lot easier. But we've got to use the tools. So we'll pick it up. The next time I see you, this might be a continuation going forward. So look, John, finishing off, we talked a bit about the headwinds, maybe from last year coming into the beginning of 2025 here. An outlook for the year ahead. I mean, it's probably a little bit of a kind of a blue sky vision that you're gonna present here. But how do you think this year looks? What's your outlook for 2025?
I mean, I mentioned consolidation earlier on, and that is going to be absolutely crucial, without a doubt. Not just end user, but partners as well, right? One thing about consolidation is, sorry, let's backtrack a wee bit. One thing about security is the fact that actually the skills gap is being reduced massively, right? We don't have enough people to be able to look after all of the tools that we have. So that also reflects and translates over into what our channel partners are doing. They can't possibly be so skilled up on every single product. They have to therefore reduce and consolidate down the number of products that they've got.
Right.
So You've got to be able to prove ROI. You've got to be able to prove efficiency, as you mentioned before. You've got to be able to show that rather than just say it's very efficient. You've
That's
actually
right.
got to prove that fact. So that's going to become more and more important. So I think that's really, really crucial. Second part, I also think, is managed service, looking for that alternative. That's one thing I've always had a real passion about, is our partners being able to provide not just reselling a product and selling that and giving that to the end user to manage, but managed service makes a huge amount of sense. For the, particularly with skill shortage, is for those end users that just do not have the skills, do not have the time to be able to manage every single one of those products that they've got. So I think managed service will go from strength to strength. I think that will increase again next year. I see that as being really, really important. And again, I think the other part is, particularly on the security side, is that zero trust is becoming more and more important. Things like DORA, for example, and making compliance is important, but zero trust has been underpinning that for a long, long time. And it's been talked about, it's been discussed, but actually how many customers really have zero trust policy in place? Some do, and that's going to increase. And I expect a lot more people will be looking to make sure that they can have a zero trust policy, but more importantly, the products to underpin that. So I think that's going to make a big more of a play coming into this year. And I certainly think from a channel point of view, channel's stronger than ever, because you've now got to depend on channel partners to be able to give you that feedback that a vendor is going to be able to give you. I can tell you where Gigamon is fantastic and where it can help, but so can every other vendor. You need a partner to be able to bring that all together. You mentioned it before, to try and get to that holy grail of that pure solution sell, right? Stop for a second before you purchase, before you renew, and look at what you have got, look at what you want to get to, and more importantly, don't throw out everything before assessing what you've currently got, and then making a decision based on that, rather than just, because we've said years ago, just buying products does not necessarily mean you're going to fix a problem, right? Stop for a second and realize what it is you have got, and you've got experts that can help you do that. So I think channel play is more and more important than it's ever been before, for that very reason, to get more bang for buck.
So listen, John, super. Thanks ever so much. As I said, it's been lovely to know you the last, and it is just over 10 years. It'll be our 11th anniversary coming up. It will be in April of this year. Hopefully, I'll see you. It'd be nice to see you again at some time in Paris, but it'll probably be London at some point in the not too distant future. So thanks for taking time out of your day at the beginning of 2025 to give us some real kind of insight on your perspective on the state of play. Really appreciate it. To all our listeners out there, I'm Mark Edwards at the Channel Zone. We are joined today by Jon Kane. Jon is the Senior Sales Director EMEA for Channels and Alliances at Gigamon. Jon, thanks ever so much, and have a good day.
Thanks ever so much, Mark. Thank you all.